who I am, what I have, what I'm doing is not enough, which brings, negative emotion when you
Yeah.
feel that way. It brings dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
Well, it either creates dissatisfaction or it reveals dissatisfaction comparison.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Bold Marriage Podcast. Today we're going to jump right in. We've got an interesting topic today, talking about comparison. What it is, how it can influence your marriage in both the negative, and then we're going to talk about some positives to it, and then really just cautionary tale, right, of the damages that it can do, and we'll make sure that we hit on what you can do about it, how you can really talk about it in your marriage and rebuild some of what comparison has stolen from you and what to do instead. Right?
Yeah, and I just want to point out, as with every episode that we make, this is our perspective. It's our interpretation of these things. So take what you feel compelled to take, and, just know that we are coming at this from our experience, from what we've seen, from, just what we've seen in our own lives.
Yeah. So maybe just to start, comparison all over our culture, I would say like way more than when we were kids. Jamie is still in her 30s for the record. I have entered the midlife.
You're an old man.
Midlife age.
I'm not far behind.
That's true. You're not. But in seriousness, I think, probably stating the obvious, but with social media, with how accessible just media is in general, I think comparison today compared to when our parents were kids, for example, totally different, right? And if you're listening to this and you're even older than that, I think it's not even the same at all.
No, gosh.
Right. So there's like some natural challenges in culture with this.
You mean with comparison?
Yeah. Like, don't you think it's more prevalent within a marriage context
because
even too?
now with social media, I mean, everybody's posting everything they do, all the good things that they do all the time. And there are people who fall into the trap of just scrolling and looking at that stuff constantly. And and that can be, they're looking at like, bad things that are affecting their mental health and emotional state. But then when you're looking at all these good things, that can be really impactful too. And I think that's the focus of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Especially as it relates to other people's lives, their marriages, what they're doing on a given day. I think it can be really harmful.
Right. Comparison is quite literally whether it's you as an individual, as a husband or wife, as a man, as a woman, comparing yourself to what your friends, your parents, your siblings, cousins, extended community, perfect strangers, influencers on social media, celebrities. I mean, the list really goes on and on. I think that to like table stakes, what we're talking about is how comparison influences you as an individual, but what we're really going to talk about mostly is how it influences your marriage. So maybe.
Yeah. Well, and I want to point out too that you could be comparing in multiple ways. You could be comparing what people have and what they're doing. And you can also be comparing what seems to be their connection, their closeness, their intimacy. Because it's not just through social media. It might be friends that you see at church or around at school, or where your kids are at school or at work, the way people talk about their marriages. So there's multiple ways to compare and depths to it.
Right. What's the immediate danger or a common feeling with people that either like from a wife's perspective or as a couple?
I think one key issue is the feeling of I'm not enough. Who I am, what I have, what I'm doing is not enough.
Yeah.
Which brings, negative emotion when you feel that way. It brings dissatisfaction. Well, okay, so you and I talked about this earlier. It either creates dissatisfaction or it reveals dissatisfaction comparison.
Okay.
And I think identifying which of those things is going on is critical. So maybe everything's good. You have, your life is good. And then you start seeing, oh, I don't have that. We're not doing that. We're not like that. And now you're suddenly dissatisfied. Or
about something you didn't even know
you were fine before you realized it. Or you're not fine. You're not satisfied. and your constant comparison is revealing that hidden thing that you're not aware of.
I think you just exposed the issue with social media is that I think your point is exactly right. It's uncovering things that people didn't even know. I
Mhm.
mean, and think about a little off topic, but even materialism, you don't really realize you want something until you see it. And then
Yeah.
maybe you see an ad while you're scrolling on Instagram and it's like, huh, I never thought I needed
Mhm.
XYZ. Now suddenly that's the very thing I want to spend
Yeah.
all my time and attention for the next hour shopping for. You know what I mean?
Are you talking about me right now?
So I think it's your point is such a good one. Like that's the pitfall of social media. And we're
Mm,
not going to go into like a whole Mark Zuckerberg
mhm,
Senate hearing here, but I think the point is like we're going to make a correlation
mhm.
and we're going to talk about this before we wrap up today, like what you can do to safeguard your marriage
Yeah.
by putting guardrails around social media, right?
Oh, yeah. That's one key point
Yeah.
that you can so there's things we can control and there's things that we can't control.
Hmm.
And part of our what we have the power to do is what can I control that helps. So like if I walk into my kids' school
Hmm.
and there's women there who have all these things that I don't have, I can't really control that I'm going to be exposed to that and see it. I then have to just deal with my response. But if I am intentionally going on Instagram and looking and seeing all these things that that's a choice that I have power over, that I can
Yeah,
say,
that's
okay,
good.
I'm going to
It's a good point.
limit that versus now with when I see it in real life, I just have to, okay, assess what's happening. Why do I feel the way that I'm feeling? Why does that cause me this insecurity and comparison? And then work through that.
Hmm.
I can't really get away from it. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So,
Yeah.
like your point with the social media, we have control over that. We
Right.
have power to say, I'm going to limit this because of what it's doing, how it's affecting
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I think it's a huge problem,
I agree.
like enormous,
I
you
agree
know?
completely. And like the insecurity piece of all of this in a
Mm-hmm.
minute, but where a man or a husband could be maybe more predisposed to insecurities in comparison within the marriage, his own wife might be a completely different set of things.
Yeah, and I think it's dependent, like you said, on
Yeah,
each individual in each marriage because
100%.
there's going to be typical things that men compare, and women, but then that doesn't have to be the case every
Right,
time.
of
Like
course.
it's unique. So we'll let the negative impacts that comparison can have.
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that these are consistent, the top areas of comparison, and then how it equates to strain on your marriage, finances. This is a big one, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very visible. It's hard to ignore, to your
Yeah.
point earlier about people you see out and about, or people you run into at church, or the car your neighbor just bought, or the boat that your colleague at work bought. I'm
And suddenly you're like, wait, what
right.
about
You
us?
have
Like
a
think
sudden
that's
lack that
just
you didn't
all
know you
kinds of
had.
things. So I guess what you were trying to say, then the financial piece is, oh, I have to have that now.
Hmm.
And now you have these financial goals that are not good for you.
Well, maybe. I mean, I think it's two different things, right? I
Mhm.
think there's that. You're right,
Mhm.
which tangibly bad spending habits, going
Mhm.
into debt, refinancing your house or taking out like loans excessively to finance a lifestyle that you really are
Yeah.
only doing to chase the next person. But I
Yeah.
also think the second part of that, and probably I mean, they both put strain on a marriage, but the other part of it would be discontentment.
Oh, yeah.
Like even if you're not buying the thing, if you
Mhm.
have this root of bitterness and
Mhm.
dissatisfaction. You used that word earlier. I like that word, like dissatisfaction. Oh, I don't make enough money, or I can't really afford to buy that car
Mhm.
right now. I'm going to let it impact
Yeah.
me as a
Yeah.
person. Then I'm going to let it impact my relationship with you. I think
Mhm.
you bring up a good point. There's probably more, little offshoots of the financial strain, but I think
Mhm.
those two are big ones that come to mind.
Well, and that could lead, let's just say you can't afford it, so you can't do it. You just have now this jealousy and
Yeah.
insecurity, but then that might turn against your spouse of like, oh, if only you made more money. And that could go either way, husband and
Great
wife.
point.
If
It
you would
could.
just get a new job, and maybe you were content before and you're happy in your job and you're good with where you're at, but now you feel this pressure. Oh,
Yeah.
I gotta please her. I gotta please him. I have to get this figured out. And now you're having relational
Right.
strain.
Right.
because of that materialistic discontent.
Finances are a big deal. It's one of the number one causes of divorce. It's one of the number one
Mhm.
causes of marital dissatisfaction. Like
Mhm.
we've kind of talked about
Yeah,
that
one
over the
of.
years. Um, and no matter how much money you have,
Yeah.
like that's like I mean, as riches increase, do not set your heart upon them is one of the verses like
Mhm.
we've loved.
In Psalms, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
directly out of God's word. That proves the whole point. You could make
Mhm.
double, triple, quadruple what you're making now as a family and
Mhm.
as a husband and wife team, so to speak, and you could still be struggling. You could
Yeah.
even struggle more with discontent and with comparison as you earn more money. There is no science to this
Yep.
other than the fact that it
It's not
happens.
really about how much you have,
Right,
because really, you can find someone else with more than you indefinitely.
right. Indefinitely.
You get the
Yeah,
thing you wanted to have, and then it's like, but they also have that.
right.
So now I need that. Or like a big thing I think right now is vacationing. Like
Mm,
people going on crazy vacation, which is amazing. Maybe,
right.
and I want to point out too, what we can end up having. One of the dangers of comparing is then you have less kindness toward other people when you compare because you're jealous. And where there's jealousy, kindness is lacking. When you're content, when you're not comparing, you're happy for others around you who maybe have
Mhm,
things you don't or are
mhm.
doing things that you're not doing.
Right.
It's a different posture that you have toward other people,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. And we're going to talk about gratitude here in a minute, but being grateful for what you have, that does really put things in
Mhm.
perspective. There's always a lot of people that have it worse off than you.
And I think it's not just about material things and trips and your
Right.
house and all that. You might find yourself comparing another person's marriage in that they're more, like you mentioned this earlier, like there's more physical touch out in public,
Mhm.
like more public display of affection, and they're more sweet and kind, and I don't know, like he affirms her more out in front of other couples, or
Mhm.
they do more fun activities with other couples than we do. They seem to have a better friendship than we do.
Mm.
So there's also that kind of comparison. Their kids are better behaved than ours. What are they doing right that we're doing wrong?
Yeah,
So I think that is also a part of comparison,
absolutely.
you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, I think we should spend a few minutes there because that's
Mhm.
really the overarching topic itself
Mhm.
that we want to talk about is comparing how it impacts your marriage. And you're right,
Yep.
comparing the marriage itself.
And I think sometimes it's not always what it appears.
Right.
But we can't say that about everything, because surely I would hope that some couples who seem really happy are really
Yeah.
happy. And
Yeah.
I think one way that people cope with their reality of being discontent or things aren't that great is by telling themselves, oh, they just act like that. They're not really happy. Although that is sometimes true, that's not always the case. And what that mindset can do to people is it can leave them stuck in problems that need to be addressed because they convince themselves, well, they're not really happy either. So,
Everyone's got, yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
So it's like this kind of relational comparison can be revealing underlying issues within your own marriage. And that is why you're always comparing. That
Yeah.
is why you're always looking at everyone else's
Well, you're
marriage.
insecure.
Yeah.
Right.
And saying it's either you're insecure or there's real issues.
Yeah.
Maybe you and your partner are not friends and you should be. And so when you see a couple that's acting like they're best friends, you start
Triggered.
comparing, you get
Yep.
jealous, you get triggered because you're not best friends with your partner and you should be. That
Right.
should be something you uncover and that you're working on
Right.
versus saying, "Oh, they're probably not actually friends, so who cares?"
Mhm.
That's not the answer.
Yeah, and don't you think like maybe just to hit on a couple of these other ones quick, and then I want to
Mhm.
come back to what you talked about. Jealousy and insecurity, you're kind of hitting on that a little bit, but that could be physical appearance. It could be
Yeah.
career success. It could be um that's kind of dealing with you as a person, maybe even how you view your spouse. Like I hate to
Mhm.
say that, but you could kind of, oh, I wish, my wife or husband took care of themselves the way this person does. I mean,
That's
this is
so
so
true.
deeply
I didn't think about
personal,
that.
but this is the comparison thing is really a trap,
Mhm.
right? So you have in here loss of uniqueness, and I really like this. Every marriage has its own dynamic, and comparison can overshadow what makes your relationship special. I really, really like
Mm.
how you put that because I think that's so true. You might be comparing yourself to like couple goals I think is like a hashtag or something on social media, right? Or any variations of
Mhm.
that. You go on there and you could find all kinds of different things. Husbands and wives who go bow hunting together, to husbands and wives who teach a CrossFit class together, to husbands and wives who start a business together, to, I mean,
Mhm.
the gamut is so broad. And you could end up finding yourself comparing to things that are like not even something you should be comparing. You know what I'm saying? Like you should
Yeah,
focus
yeah.
on what's unique about you,
I
not,
love that. I think too, what's coming to my mind is when we idolize other people, we tend to feel like we should be just like them
mhm,
versus looking at ourselves and saying, okay, how did God make me? How did God make my partner? What are the things that we are good at that we could unite in together in doing? And you don't have to post everything you do for the world to see. I just want to challenge people who do that to question, what is your motive?
yeah.
Do you want to be compared? Do you want other people to look at you because you're insecure?
Well, that's an important one because I think you had it somewhere in our notes here. Most of what you get on, and I would argue like it's a little bit of both extremes. You either get the people that are super transparent, like awkwardly so, that'll post all the bad stuff. And then the other flip side is the highlight reel, as they say, where you're just hitting every single amazing positive thing that you do. And all your posts are well calculated and thought out. And then for the purpose of this episode, people that are comparing themselves to what they see on social media, you really, 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 even if they're people you know really well, that you're looking at their
Mhm.
stuff on online, you got to be very conscious of that. And I think that takes like some, I would argue, some spiritual discernment. It's not just like natural life wisdom, but it's spiritual discernment too, because it's not, you're not seeing the full picture. And I think you brought up a good point about marital comparison. You are right, and it could go one of two ways. You could either say, well, everything's a front,
Mm.
and underneath it's really trash. You know, the relationship is garbage, and it's just a front that you're seeing, whether it's at church on a Sunday morning or on social media or in
Mhm.
the office or whatever. But I think the opposite can also be true, right? And
Yeah, it is
there's
great.
countless, sadly, this happens a lot at church where, you know, the family life and the marriage is not good. And it typically reveals itself, right? Maybe not always
Mhm.
immediately, but the point I would make is you have to, it's so important to have wisdom on this topic. You have got to be able to look at things with perspective and
Mhm.
say, like, okay, like what could I glean from it rather than like either putting it down to your earlier point, because it
Mhm.
really could be as good as it's portrayed, or thinking everything is as great as you see it. I think there's danger in either of the two
Yeah.
extremes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just in general, I think comparing to people you don't actually know is not a good thing.
That's good. I like that.
So, like,
That's a good point.
if it's someone you know well, and you're like, wow, they are better friends in their marriage than my me and my husband. Okay, instead of comparing, this is where we've talked about this. Let's switch into, let's be inspired by that. What could
Mm,
we do
yes.
that they're doing because it's really positive?
Hmm.
So, like, turning comparison into more of an inspiration
Yeah. I was going
mindset
to ask about
with
that.
people that you know well, that you trust, that you actually believe, okay, what they're saying is true because I know them,
Yeah.
versus like people. I mean, the documentaries are endless on the YouTube family and the Instagram mom who's suddenly you find out is like this psychotic,
Or
abusive.
mega church
Oh,
pastors.
it's
Yeah.
horrifying. Like, I watch those documentaries and my head explodes. I'm
Yeah.
like, how in the world is this real? So get inspired by people you actually know,
Right.
who you actually have vetted, and you see the good that they're putting out there versus comparing to all these people that you don't even know that well. You have no idea.
No, you're right. And I think you have to have that, going back to wisdom and discernment, like pick the right things to compare too. You were talking about earlier in the episode, the things that are controllable and the things that are not. And the things that are out of your
Hmm.
control, the stuff, the income, the trips, the flashy things, the things that are just naturally not the same as your spouse or your relationship or the way you interact with each other.
Hmm.
Those are the things you have to have the discernment to cut that out. You
Yeah.
cannot be comparing things that are not relevant to your marriage.
Yeah. And the enemy will destroy you with that stuff.
Yes.
He will lie to you. There's a verse, ugh, I should have made a note of it because you know me, I'm not good at where it's at. But I believe it says something, just look it up. I believe it says something like, not to compare, be content with the things that you have. It's
Hmm.
like a perfect verse for this.
Yeah.
Be content with the
Yeah.
things that you have. And I think it even says, like, you can't take any of it with you. I don't know. I'd have to go confirm all of that. But God doesn't want us to be comparing. He
Hmm.
wants us to be content while at the same time working on things that we should not be content about,
Yeah.
issues
Yeah.
that should not be, things that we should be focusing on and changing. And let's go back like the vacation thing. I think you can even gain inspiration there. And we've talked about this before, where it's like, okay, that couple goes away alone together.
Yeah.
That could inspire. I think that's a really important thing to do. Now, how much money is spent and where they go, let's not focus on that
That's a great
because
example.
that's like the
Agree.
comparison trap. But if it's like, hey, we should go away alone together, what can we afford? Where can we afford to go?
Right.
And focus on the act of spending alone time somewhere with your spouse. That's a cool way to be
What's the
inspired.
important piece of it? Yeah.
Yeah, inspiration versus comparison.
That's good. No, and I think that's a great example. Maybe to bridge between, you talked about how comparison can be used for good. In the healthy way it's used, it can produce a good result. I think what it requires, you boundaries with social media, daily gratitude for your spouse. That could be
Mhm.
true for your marriage. How are you really showing gratitude
So good.
and thinking about thankfulness in your own
Mhm.
marriage, in your life, instead of allowing that. And there's a quote, I've been dying to get this in somehow. Teddy Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm.
And I just love that, because if you really think about it, that couldn't be more true than what we're talking about
Mhm.
here. If you can learn to express gratitude, have joy about the circumstances in your life, have thankfulness towards your spouse, it's
Mhm.
naturally gonna
Yeah.
it's like a defensive measure against comparison, right?
Mhm.
I mean, how can you be discontent
Yep.
in the right ways,
Yep.
or discontent in the wrong ways if you're expressing
Mhm.
gratitude?
I love that. That's so good. Like, be content with the things that you have.
Yeah,
Be grateful.
instead of comparison.
And then
Yeah.
I think on the flip side, work on focusing on, okay, is this constant comparison uncovering an insecurity in me or a
Mhm.
problem in my relationship that needs to
Love that.
be uncovered, needs to be talked about, needs to be addressed?
Can
Because
maybe
that can
explain
happen.
that a little bit, because I do think that's important to say.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, let's say you are comparing how kind your friend's wife is to him all the time in your head. You're like, gosh, she's so kind. She talks nicely to him. She treats him well. And you're always comparing your wife to this guy's wife.
Mhm.
Could it be that your wife's treating you really badly and is really mean to you and
It's
is
true.
putting you down
Mhm.
at home all the time? And something within you feels like this isn't okay, this isn't right, but you haven't done anything about it. All you find yourself doing is comparing
Mhm.
to all these other wives who speak kindly to their husbands.
Mm.
And that could go for the wife too. Oh, you're a wife, you're comparing, wow, he values her opinions. He listens to her thoughts and takes into account everything she has to say
Mm.
about their life, and they
Yeah.
make decisions together, and you're comparing because that's not the case in your home. In your home, you just obey and do what you're told and you don't really have a voice. So both of those situations uncover a serious root problem. So really your comparison is showing you that something's wrong.
Shining
Something's
a
not
spotlight.
right here,
Mhm.
and I need to do something about it.
So that's an example of where, maybe just to put some, like, context behind the kind of outline we're following here, is like, that would be how you can kind of pivot from the negative comparison, how it drains your marriage, how it sucks the life out of it, how it
Mhm.
creates this discontentment. And in reality, what you're talking about now is areas where A, it exposes insecurity,
Mhm.
and B, where if compared the right way or with the right motives, it can expose a true issue in your marriage.
Yeah, that needs
Yeah,
to be,
that needs to be
and
addressed.
that is where self-awareness, as I've said before, as you and I will continue to say, self-reflection, self-awareness is so critical
Hmm.
because all you got to do is stop and say, okay, why do I want all the stuff that those people have? what's going on with me? And as you focus on it, you start thinking about it and uncovering the reasons. That's like being self-aware. Or
Yep.
why am I always comparing to that marriage? Is it because there's an issue in mine, or is it because I'm just not content and I need to focus on the good and the
Yeah.
positives
Yeah.
in my marriage and stop worrying about their marriage? So just
Yeah.
like it, stopping, reflecting, thinking, being aware helps uncover what the root actually is.
Yeah. That's well said. So I think where we're leading with this, it's going to lead you to a discussion, right? Like that's kind of the purpose of this is it leads to having a conversation with your spouse. But I think you have some good points here. The first action step that you can take is write down 5, 10, 3, whatever things you're grateful for about your spouse and your marriage
In your
this
life in
week.
general,
Sure, in your
what you
life in general.
have, the blessings you've
And then
got.
once you both have done that, share that out loud. I think that's important.
Hmm.
And then identify hit the nail on the head with what you've said, and I'll let you kind of do the last one here. Identify and discuss the insecurities. So if that exercise, part one, revealed to you, okay, well, I'm grateful for this, but, and you're thinking through the things that maybe you are struggling with
Hmm.
in that healthy comparison, like you just finished with a minute ago, discuss those with your partner and really assess those areas of comparison and
Hmm.
what the motive is maybe behind it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The motive is huge.
Right.
And then I think finally, what I said a minute ago, just challenge yourself, be curious, start thinking, okay, is my constant comparison due to a lack of contentment, insecurity, or is it because there's a real problem or problems here that I'm ignoring that we are
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm.
dealing with that need to be addressed? So, and you might get a combination. There might be some things that are just it's you're just comparing because you're discontent and you're not focused on the good. And then there might be some things where it's like, well, in this case though, it's a real issue that we need to deal with
Yeah.
and talk through. So
Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all really for anything.
Yeah.
I think you and I talk about that a lot. Like it's everything's unique and everyone's different, you know.
Well, I think examples of good comparison could be that I've thought about as like a mentor couple that we know well that prays together
Mm-hmm.
every single night, and that's something we've aspired to do and do a decent job of. But couples that they walk together every evening. I mean, they take trips together, like you talked about. I mean, there's so many good, healthy things that you could, maybe it is boundaries with kids. You brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you look at other couples and you're like, wow, they're doing something different, and I kind of want what they have. That's not a bad thing. That's
Yeah, it
that's a
can be
really,
good.
really good thing. So I think it's just a matter of deciding if it's using the people or the marriages that you're looking up to as a role model, something you want to emulate, or if the root of it, and you just talked about motive, I think you're totally right. Like, is the motive bitterness, envy, jealousy, resentment, and
Mm-hmm.
then looking introspectively at negative thoughts about
Mm-hmm.
your marriage? And that's not what we want to produce here at all.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think people who are unwilling to change and work on themselves lean more toward the jealousy, envy, bitterness versus people who are open to change, open to improvement, they want to work on things, are more easily inspired
Hmm.
by people okay, like I love what you said about walking together. That does sound good. We have neighbors who
Yeah.
the couple, they walk every day. And every time I drive by and they're walking, I think, I love that they do that. We should try that. Like it's
Yeah.
just in the back of my mind. So it's funny that you say it.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's not a bad thing. I don't
Right.
think to myself, though, Chris doesn't walk with me every night. I
Right.
can't believe that. That's like a negative
That's a good point.
comparison versus, oh, that's really cool. I bet they connect. I bet they talk a lot. I bet that's really a time of like connection for them. That's a great idea. That's more the inspiration,
Yeah.
role model type thing that you're mentioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So maybe just to quickly recap, we gave you some homework assignments around writing down things you're grateful for, identifying insecurities if they exist, and even problem spots like Jamie mentioned, and really challenging yourselves to assess if this is an issue in your marriage, and then how can you take some action steps towards improving that. We
mhm.
talked about the negatives of comparison at the beginning of the episode, how it really drains you personally and your marriage. all the different types of negative comparison, and then we sort of sprinkled in there how it's good also.
Can be good. Yep.
We hope you enjoyed the episode. Leave your thoughts and comments as always, and we'll see you on the next one.